What a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and Aftershow. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are premiering. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of appreciation to, get my tongue around it eventually, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Henrik86, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Liam Nedrick, Dank, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, and David Wayne Foster. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now we are joined by hopefully, well, quite a few people in Discord, so I'll raise the mic on them while I set up for today's live show.
How's it going, Neil?
Hello.
Oh, hey, Nathan.
How's it going?
Morning, Nathan.
Morning. If I disappear and make coffee, will it be a really dry conversation?
I'll say something.
I'll do my best.
Excellent. I'll go make coffee. Please don't ask me anything.
So yeah, update from the Oklahoma venture.
I guess her stepdad.
I ended up falling off the back of the truck and jacked my foot pretty hardcore, so we had to hire some people to unload the truck.
Oklahoma kid.
What's that?
What's the weather doing?
It's humid, a little bit of rain sprinkling here and there, but yeah, it should start getting cold here.
Tulsa?
Yeah, kind of on the border.
Yeah, near Tulsa.
Yeah, it's more rural. It's called,
Get over here.
Yeah, fuck it. Coweta. I think that's the name of the city.
¿Cómo estás?
Is that you, 10th man?
I think that was Flatsoid. Muy bien, gracias. I don't know if I can get Tinman's voice right. You were speaking Spanish, though. No entiendo. ¿Dónde está el baño, por favor? Por favor. Llevo. Hey, are you driving or are you spraying? Because there's background noise. Alrighty then. Good morning. Who's on Discord?
Hey, 10th.
Hey, how are you, Nathan?
What's up, 10th man?
Who's this?
Billy the Kid.
Oh, your mic sounds a lot different. What'd you do, Neil?
I'm speaking louder.
Yeah, you sound good. I didn't recognize your voice at the beginning. Did you change mic? Or are you in a different room or what?
Nah, same phone.
All right. Well, see, I guess that's the way you hold it.
Fred.
Who knows?
So who else is on Discord? Because I can't see the screen.
Ryan Eartherton's on Discord. How's mine sounding right now?
You
You
got a
sound
lot
good.
of background noise, buddy.
Yeah, besides my sister.
Sounds like you're having a party over there.
They're
Am I
obviously
still
not
coming
6 feet
forward?
apart.
Sorry, Tent. I am in a spry booth. That's the background noise.
Yeah, okay, I thought so.
You can hardly hear it.
Any
Yeah,
ballers
speaking of-
in Discord?
Speaking about mics, I can never hear Flatsoid at all. Just sounds like.
So no ballers in Discord, Nathan?
Yeah, there's always ballers in Discord. Just 'cause they're not responding to you.
Boy, was that a setup question or what?
Uncle Rick is there, the troublemaker, who got his ass handed
Okay.
to him yesterday by Nathan.
Ouch.
With his ears plugged. Comes in here with his ears plugged.
Then he accuses Nathan of kicking him out when he just talks through the whole entire dialogue.
Was that yesterday? Let's see. We were asking them how did the radius of the Earth get measured, and that's where
Yes.
it kind of fell apart.
Yes.
Well, Pickle Rick, you've had a day to sleep on it and think about it after you woke up, so maybe you can tell us how they measured the radius of the Earth.
Got his fingers in his ears, so I wouldn't even bother trying.
Oh,
Why he's
I
here?
can't see it.
If he's just going to stick his fingers immediately in his ears, but there we go. In this instance, that's his MO. Come in, immediately put his fingers in his ears.
And then you had Ed Freeze white knighting for him with his little remarks.
Oh, that was okay by me. I went on camera. It's like, share your pain, Nathan. So at the time, I'm just, when you're in the perfect position to just turn the camera on and you're in its most relaxed position you could possibly be. So I'm sat back in my chair. I'm like, being told that I need to share my pain. I'm like, okay, I'll just turn the camera on and show precisely how relaxed I am. You know what I mean?
All you were missing was a cigar.
So
Yeah, that was pretty
when
much
will
it.
that be up?
I could, a brandy and a cigar, that could have been probably the only thing to put me in a more relaxed looking position. You know what I mean?
So I couldn't see that on Discord. So when will that come out?
Sunday. No, this will come out on
Sunday.
Sunday, won't it? It'll come out tomorrow, Saturday.
Okay.
Maybe. If you're a member, then immediately you can see it now.
Yeah, well, I can't wait for Brian to get on because in the after show yesterday we had a fun time, and we said, we ought to do that tomorrow. I said, well, make sure you come on early because I've got to head out of town tomorrow, so he should be on soon.
Really plug my membership at that point. So, yeah, the reason Neil, who is not a member, is asking when that'll come out it's because members get it immediately. So as soon as these shows finish, I immediately upload them as a member-only video. And then at the weekend, which is now, for those of you listening to this will be, unless you're a member, it won't be Friday. This will be like Monday or Sunday or maybe Saturday. Depends. I don't think it'll be Saturday. The reason I'm uncertain is because I've got lots of other videos to upload or uploaded. Some of them already as members' videos. So, for example, there's the interview from my end that I did with Mitchell from Australia and Paul on the plane. So I recorded that from my end and I've uploaded it as a member-only video. And to be fair, it's pretty much the same as his, other than there's a preamble on their show between the two of them talking about me and Fight the Flat Earth. But other than that, it's the same. I say that there's a couple of bits where it's like, this is where I'll put in better recordings of the calls from, the call-ins. I'll edit those in. He's telling me that, but that's just in my unedited version, if that makes sense. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. The interruptions, the gaps are only a couple of minutes at the most. So that I'll probably release over the weekend, as Paul on the Plane's got it out as his podcast. He's had it out for a few days, just knowing from my own analytics how long it needs to be out for him to have, got the most out of it before I then publish it, if that makes sense. So I'll probably be...
Yeah, so how long are the interviews?
It's an hour and... The interview itself's an hour, but I stick around. They asked me if I wanted to stick around to answer... I couldn't resist, because they were like, last week's show, we asked the question to the audience for the phone-in. What was the question that they struggled to overcome from a Glober? I'm like, yeah, I'll stick around for that.
Sure.
So I did.
Oh, that's
so
good.
It was about an hour and a half.
Cool. Yeah, that's it's good to have extra material. That way you're not feeling rushed. Put something out each day. I'm working on stuff for my new channel now. It's gonna take a while to build up a reserve.
I'm interested in a routine, so there's no rush, as you put it, to do anything. I've just got my routine of getting my material down, getting it published out to members, and then with a delay out to the public. So I'm just in a routine. It's almost inconsequential.
You're pretty much established. You're a 5-day show, and then Saturday Ballbusters, and then premieres and special things like interviews, like you just talked about. I don't think I want to do a 5-day show, but I haven't decided if I'm going to do 2 shows a week or 3 shows a week. And I don't have a computer. I only have an iPad, so I can't get OBS. So I don't know how I'm going to do those kind of things until I figure that out. But I could go record. What I love doing is talking to people on the street, or people who introduce me to people when I'm out with my friends, and Flat Earth comes up. I want to be able to say, hey, I got a YouTube channel. Can I record this call without mentioning your name and just get your opinion on some of these subjects?
Phone. Do it as an audio recording. Ask first. But just do rather than having to point a camera at them, do it as an audio recording and then just...
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't point the camera at them. It would just be an audio from the phone. That's exactly what I'm saying. Or I might have it, if I'm in my friend's restaurant, I might have it aimed at a beer or something.
If you have to, but it just change your battery. I mean, if the picture is not relevant, i.e. it's a picture of a beer in a restaurant, just don't bother. Just, after the fact, use a cheap piece of or free piece of editing software on the phone to just superimpose it over the top of a photo.
Yeah, I could extract the audio and just put any photo as a background.
Yeah, exactly.
So what beer would you like in the background, Nathan?
I don't even drink. Talking about brandy, I don't even drink. I think the last time I drank was with Anthony Riley over in St. Bees when we were measuring that cliff. And that was basically because he insisted. I mean, it's not like I can't drink. It's not like I'm incapable of having an alcoholic drink. But I don't typically ever drink.
Not even wine with dinner or a meal?
No. I said it to the guy in the off license. I drink cherry Coke. That's like my special treat. Like someone would have a beer, I'll have a cherry Coke. And I know it's bad, just like beer's bad. But there we go. Anyway, the guy in the off license was like, asking me, he's like, "What, don't you buy anything other than cherry Coke?" And I'm like, No,
Wait a
it's
minute.
like
It's the first time I heard that beer was bad.
anything in excess is bad.
Oh, in excess. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. In excess.
Yeah, the guy
Isn't
at my
that-
local
isn't
shop
that a
couldn't quite
rocker?
believe his ears when I said I didn't drink. And it's like, you should know. You're the guy who runs the shop with all the beer. Do you ever see me buying it here? I'm like, obviously not. So
He just wants to sell you something. He's mad that you
he's
don't
like,
drink
why are you spending a couple of bucks on a bottle of cherry coke? Buy a bottle of wine for a tenner. What's your problem?
Don't you have friends who drink?
They have what? I missed that. Sorry.
I said, don't you have friends that drink? Buy it for them.
Well, we do. We've got people give us drinks, and because we don't drink it, it just ends up in the fridge. So that often gets given away when you go around to a friend's house. It's like, well, we're not going to drink this. So it just gets passed between us to someone else usually, because it just sits in the cupboard or sits in the fridge, and it's like it's just taking up valuable real estate in the fridge. These bottles of booze.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a family that was always had wine on the table. There were no alcoholics in my family whatsoever. We shun at, drunkenness, so we don't do that. But every meal was with a glass of wine, and that's as young as I can remember.
Fair enough.
Proverbs 20, wine is a mocker and strong drink is raging. And whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise.
Now, what's the context for that, Neil? That's like the
I'm
love
only
of
kidding
money
you,
and
Ted,
money.
man. I used to debate with Christians about wine because I'm Italian descent, and a glass of
I know
wine
that.
at dinner is normal. So how you
No,
gonna
I just-
tell all those people that they can't have a glass of wine?
I don't think anybody was saying that.
No, I wanted to use the moment to tie into that other verse that says the love of money is the root of all evil versus money.
Yeah, it's the love of money.
Right. So too much drink is the same, but not
Right.
drink itself.
Right. I agree with you.
Well, even the Lord drank.
Oh, my
Then he broke
schedule.
the Nazarite vow.
Changed all
What's
the
that?
YouTube settings, by the way. So, sorry to interrupt this riveting conversation. No, it was interesting. I'm sorry. So,
No,
James,
it's all right. What'd you do with the show?
it's been scheduled in a different way. They've changed the live dashboard. I know Arwin had mentioned it, but I'd managed to wangle my way back to the original YouTube studio. Well, they've prevented that now. Hence, my live stream has now got a black chat, excuse me, rather than a white chat, because it's off this new YouTube studio. But it has actually scheduled successfully. The next thing is to check that the stream key works correctly, and it does actually go live when I press live. But I just wanted to preempt you sort of 15 minutes before the show that I may start 5 minutes early, just in case there's any issues with the live stream. That gives me 5 minutes to get it right if there's a problem and still go live on time. I'd rather be early, in other words.
I just checked my phone and it says 14 minutes ago. I got your notification. So let me hit on it and see what I see.
That's great. Can I go back to Jesus drinking wine now?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
shows
whatever,
up
yeah.
14. It says 7 seconds before the live show.
Yeah, I've scheduled it. I think I'm in the right place. I think I'm on the right dashboard. I think I've put the stream key in correctly, but any of those things could be wrong.
Sure, I got you. Yeah, and what was his statement about the subject of the drink to his disciples before?
Some will say that if he drank wine, then he broke his Nazarite vow.
No, he wasn't that. He wasn't a Nazarite. He lived in the city of Nazareth. He's from the tribe of David, Benjamin.
Is he
Anyway,
not called the Nazarene?
Back to what he said. Back to what he said. He says, "I will not drink of the fruit of this wine until I see you again." Right, his second coming.
You have those that say, yeah, but that was non-alcoholic wine. They called grape juice wine back then.
Well, I know, and there probably was the new wine and watered down wine when you can afford real wine. I'm sure all those things were true too, but there's many instances when he did his first miracle, the pots of water into wine, the guest came to the host and says, most people serve the good wine at the beginning, and then when men are well drunk, then they bring the cheaper wine. But you've saved the best for last. So was he saying that was water?
I'd say he was saying that was the best wine you could get.
I would say that's the best wine he ever had, right? And so what a miracle that was to turn water into wine, bypassing fermentation process, everything, right? So that's a miracle right there. And then when he said, if I'm going to quote it right, John the Baptist came not eating or drinking, and you didn't believe him, and the Son of Man, me, the Lord himself, as he's talking about himself, came eating and drinking, and he says he's a friend of sinners and gluttons. So he came to save the lost. He was with tax collectors, and prostitutes would come and repent, and the Pharisees wouldn't, but they couldn't understand how he could just hang around sinners.
They called him a wine bibber too, right?
Right.
And a friend of sinners.
Yeah,
Thank God
that's
he's
the
a friend
whole
of sinners.
implication. He drank with them. What, water? Why would they call him those things?
That's why you got to carefully dissect the Word of God.
The text is clear. People want to put their bias. That's okay. If they don't want to drink, they don't need to drink, but don't push it on somebody else. It's clear. Don't get drunk. It doesn't say don't drink.
Correct. Not in debauchery.
Right. I mean, it's not like there's the Greeks. I forget the certain name for it, but they used to gorge themselves and then stick their finger down their throat and throw it all up and gorge themselves again. Yeah, that kind of stuff is nonsense.
So Proverbs 20, he's basically saying not to get drunk, because it says wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Then it goes on to say, do not drink in is it Proverbs 30, 31? Says do not
Give me a verse, I'll look it up.
I'm in a position where I don't have my Bible on me.
Well, just say what you want to say.
When she's saying, my son, do not drink wine, and she goes into the whole things, wisdom is when wisdom is talking.
Right, yeah. Again, it's in context of excess, because the Bible is very consistent in that. Especially that topic. It's from Old Testament to New Testament. So there's drinking in the Old Testament address, there's drinking in the New Testament address, and it's talking about excess. In fact, Paul says to Timothy, hey, if your stomach hurts, drink a little wine. So for your, for ailment, it's good. So he told him to drink a little wine for his ailment. So
the medicine of the day.
Correct. Look, there's lots of things that are allowed, but within reason. And you could take the good things that God has provided and pollute them and make them wrong.
Yeah.
I think everyone knows their conscience is, everyone's conscience bears witness initially until they sear it with a hot iron, as it says, until they don't want to listen to their conscience. So I think everybody kind of knows.
Let me read this, and then you could break. Let me read this, then you could break it down. Proverbs 31 in verse 4, it says, "It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes strong drink, lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted. Give strong drink unto him that is ready to perish, and wine unto those that be of heavy hearts. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more." So there's a lot of stuff in there about drinking.
Well, when the ruler is about to make decisions and act as a ruler, he shouldn't be drinking because it might affect his decision. That's pretty much obvious right at the beginning. One glass of wine is not going to affect your decision, but the way they drank, he's saying, look, if you're going to be a king and a prince and you're going to be doing the office of a king and a prince, don't be drinking, because how are you going to do your office if you're drunk?
Are we not kings and priests of the royal priesthood?
That's a different subject. Talking about kings
And have it both ways now,
princes who
10th
are,
man.
Right.
what's going on here?
We are a royal priesthood.
Yeah, but you can't take the royal priesthood because of salvation through Christ, referencing our future and our current position in God's eyes because our sins are forgiven, to a text that's talking about kings of the earth and princes of the earth who are making decisions here on earth, and they shouldn't be doing it if they're drunk. Context.
I don't know, it seems pretty clear here.
Yeah, it is clear. Context.
Seems pretty clear here, no drink.
In context. And then he says you could drink here.
The new text chat on screen.
Shipping saints.
The new
I'm only
text,
breaking your tops.
What's that, Nathan?
I just can't talk about it on the live show. It's admin related, so I just wanted to get off my chest while I was doing the pre-show. So the new text chat, number one, none of my buttons work anymore. So that's going to be a load of work. So when I press a button to say I'm about to start the live show, I think I say something like we're starting in a couple of minutes. That's a button that I press on my little box, and it doesn't work anymore. That's irritating. So what's it called? Stream Deck obviously doesn't now function with the new version of whatever this new live dashboard is, which is just frustrating. The other thing is it's black with white text. Well, that's not as clear. You can't read it as clearly. So this whole fad of people with dark mode has obviously spilled its way into YouTube dashboard, and they've gone, all right, well, that's cool. It's like, well, yeah, cool and being legible are two different things, right? Yeah, it looks nicer, but it's not as legible. And all I'm interested in, you want black text on white background. That's the clearest way to read text. Why have they changed it? It's just annoying. Anyway, that's me getting my admin normal.
You got 5 minutes, 18 seconds. You're going to start shortly, just a
I was going to, yeah, that's what okay. Like I say, I'm going to start. Well, I'm going to attempt to start now, so feel free to chat amongst yourselves in case it doesn't work.
No problem.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, we are joined by Paul Hall, 10th Man, Flatzoid, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So, welcome, one and all.
Hey, good Friday, everybody.
Konnichiwa.
Have a glass of wine on me.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to have you all. Glad to see the preview screen showing we are actually live with this new fangled YouTube software. So happy days. The scheduled show went out and we are now live. Happy days. Couldn't be more pleased. Let's do housekeeping. Any signs of a physical, geometric sphere edge, horizon formerly known as Earth curve?
Not from any
Not from
right
the
angle
bar.
instrument.
Not in Oklahoma.
Any more for any more? Earth curve got almost an entire show yesterday. Just a few no.
Yeah, that was great, by the way. Yesterday's show was good. I can't wait to have a chance to take more notes on it. That was good.
Well, as we discussed in the pre-show, if you're a member, you could watch the full Uncut and Aftershow right now as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. But enough plugs for me. Any signs
Well,
of
hang
that
on,
till?
hang on. Panel members have work to do, so they have to go back again, okay?
That's true. But you were actually there. There's a big difference,
Yes,
right?
I was. Yes, thank you for allowing me to be there.
But yeah, I mean,
But
you don't have to.
actually there now.
While it may be nice to experience it after the fact, you were actually partaking in that particular show, so no real hard feelings.
Get an
No,
Obi-Wan
not whatsoever.
icon and I'll
It's-
become a member.
Say again,
Well,
Neil?
if,
Get an Obi-Wan Kenobi icon and I will become a member.
Oh, I'm not forcing you. Again, you're normally part of this actual discussion,
nice
Neil.
pun,
It
Nathan.
was just my loose way of plugging it to the people watching, as opposed to the panel members who actually make the show. But there we go. You can take it that way if you want. I don't mind you becoming a member. Not that I'm mercenary.
Nathan, you did a nice Star Wars pun, by the way.
What was my Star Wars pun? It was inadvertent if it was.
Yes, yeah, you said I don't mind forcing you.
Actually, I got a Star Wars lamp. God, this is terrible. We're in the middle of housekeeping. I'd normally tell people off so badly for this sort of nonsense. But I wanted some new lamps, because, not to bore you too much, but the bass traps that I'm going to get, but they won't fit with the current lamps. So my wife says, what about these? I've got one that's Batman, with a Batman head lampshade, and one that's Darth Vader, with a Darth Vader lampshade head. And I was like, yeah, they're pretty good. They're like themed for movies. Why not? And she got them back, and they're battery operated. I was like, you can't plug them in. I just want to stick a light in them. And so there we go. So they're pretty much useless. Anyway, should we carry on with housekeeping?
Well, yeah, but let me give a remark about what you said earlier about yesterday's show on the one housekeeping question. I do this whenever I have time, and every time I do it, it's so much more things I hear after I listen to a show that's recorded that because I'm a panel member, it's going by in live time, right? So many times things go by me, and then later when I listen to the same show, it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even hear that, but I was there. How come I didn't hear it? So it's good to listen to these shows at least twice. That's
Let's
a
just
plus.
check this is actually live, because there's normally more people chatting by now. And the preview screen has got a button saying go live.
Yeah, it didn't go live on mine, Nathan. And the other thing is, you're right, 10th Man, because I hear a lot of stuff that I didn't hear when I re-listened to the show.
Okay, so we're still in the pre-show. Wonderful. So I have to do the intro again.
I just
don't know
can't-
how
I
this
just
works though.
can't
Do I
say-
have to... Hold on. Do I have to press the go live button? Will I wait till Alan gets here and just try it? Because he knows he's used it. Or should I just press it and hope for the best?
Well, my thing, my phone says waiting for Nathan Oakley 1980, and then it just said 6 a.m. right now, but nothing's happening.
Damn you, YouTube. Why can't you keep things the same? Okay, let's just see if we can try this again.
lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, hopefully live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Arwin, Paul Hall, Flatsoid, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. Welcome one and all.
Good Friday, everybody.
Yeah, good afternoon. This Sunday.
So once the show's over, Arwin, I need to grill you for how to get the stream to work, because this is the third attempt, third
working.
intro, I should say.
The startup went perfectly smooth. I watched it on YouTube.
This one did. Anyway.
Okay.
We're going to do housekeeping again, even though if you're watching as a member or you're watching this on Sunday, you've heard it twice. Nevertheless, any signs of a physical geometric sphere edge, the horizon formerly known as Earth curve?
Not from any right angle instrument.
Instrument? Nah.
Yeah, sextant. All any right angle.
Don't be so obtuse.
Boom, boom.
Oh, what nice one.
What?
Don't be so obtuse.
Now the sphere edge was never there. They just presumed it by presuming R and then imagining terrestrial refraction and then claiming that they actually set out to prove that, but they didn't, because you can't. Because it's a paradox.
Indeed. It was a good show yesterday. It was one of the few times I actually gave the live show a name and just called it, I think I just called it Earth Curve. I can't even remember what I gave it the name of, but I gave it a name, which is unusual for a live show. So that was down to you and you pointing out that paradox. Good word.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Would that mean 15 degrees of movement?
An alleged 15 degrees an hour as the Earth, 15 degrees an hour deviation as the Earth is claimed to rotate underneath.
And that would be translated into miles per hour on the surface, right?
Yeah, angular speed can be described with tangential velocity, 1,000 plus miles an hour at the equator.
So if the equator is clocked at over 1,000 miles per hour, when we notice that?
Clocked at? No one's clocking anything at anything. It's just a claim that we've got apparent drift, so they can convolute it and then beg the question that everything's travelling together, because you don't see a 15 degrees an hour deviation, as is claimed. So no clocking anything.
Well, I've got more gold than Fort Knox. I can say anything I want. I still have to prove it, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's called a baseless assertion fallacy, though.
Well, my point is, they're saying there's 15-degree movement, and then when you say, what is that translated into at the equator at the surface in miles per hour? It'd be over 1,000. And then we'd say, well, then how can we prove the Earth is moving 1,000 miles per hour at the equator? And they have nothing. There's no Earth-based coriolis. You go up in the drone, you go up in an airplane, and the flight times are not shortened, so it's not moving.
Sorry.
Indeed.
Sorry, what equator?
It's an arbitrary position they've derived from the movement of the sun. Not a real place.
Begging the question, but no movement, no.
Still, even though they've derived that location from
How
a
is it
position,
moving 15 degrees per hour even, you know?
how are we moving? We're not. There's a claim we're moving underneath stuff out that's not attached to the Earth that's spinning, and that demonstrates 15 degrees an hour deviation. That's called coriolis effect. That's what's claimed to prove Earth spins. Of course, as soon as you point out to any fundy in this trench that we reside in that there is no 15 degrees an hour deviation, they'll just immediately beg the question, well, Earth's spinning, and then they'll violate gas law and say, well, the gas is spinning with it. It's like, well, that doesn't give you 15 degrees an hour deviation, and that's the very thing you're supposed to have to prove you're spinning. Other than a begging the question fallacy rebuttal, that's all they've got.
Well, technically, it's even easier than that, because I'm pretty sure that physical gyroscopes are notorious for being exact in their orientation, no matter what, no matter how much time it takes for the orientation of wherever it's at to change. So, yeah, where's these gyroscopes all over the world just showing that the Earth is slowly turning at that speed? They're
Well,
not
they don't.
there.
They don't, but there's an assertion from fibre optic gyros and ring laser gyros that they do. Now, you can just
Yeah, but
check
they're
out
not
someone
physical
like...
gyros.
Yeah, I was just about to plug John Savage, so just go and check out John Savage. He's done plenty of videos with gyros. He gave up after a certain degree of time because he was just sick of being trolled. You know, endless trolling when you show a gyroscope not drifting at 15 degrees an hour, which is what he does. So many people have done it. They don't drift. The mechanical gyros, they're alleged to drift at 15 degrees an hour when you have an optical gyro. Well, okay, if you've got 15 degrees an hour drift in the gyro, that means Earth spinning underneath the fixed frame of reference called an inertial reference frame of the gyro. So you've got Earth spinning underneath it, right? Well, that means it's spinning underneath anything not attached. That would be an aeroplane or helicopter or drone or hot air balloon, and Earth would spin underneath it at 15 degrees an hour, according to their claim that they utilise ring laser and fibre optic gyros to make. Well, if you've Earth spinning underneath at 15 degrees an hour, it's spinning underneath a plane, a drone, a helicopter, a hot air balloon at 15 degrees an hour. But it isn't. End of claim. There is no spin of the Earth.
I got a little detail question about that. Like, are ring laser gyros used for the same technical purposes as regular physical gyros are used to have perfect orientation?
Probably.
What are they even used for?
Probably. I don't care.
Really?
What they use for in this case is to claim the Earth's turning underneath them at 15 degrees an hour, which would shorten flight times when travelling west if Earth was deviating or causing things to seem to deviate from the ground because Earth's turning underneath them, as is alleged with this gyro. So I just use that to my advantage. Okay, fundies, 15 degrees an hour, you say? Why don't you add the end bit onto that, I wonder? 15 degrees an hour as the Earth rotates underneath to give you an apparent deviation, which is what is claimed to be seen in the gyro. So you're claiming 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth rotates underneath then? Well, that means Earth rotating underneath planes and drones and anything else not attached to Earth. That's what it means. That doesn't happen. So the ring laser gyroscope claim is bullshit. Doesn't matter what they say, because what they say would inevitably lead to planes having shortened flight times and balloons going up and having continents come towards them as they just sit in the air.
I disagree, because they would rather draw to the idea that the whole Earth is just spinning everywhere and just turning itself apart, because I'm pretty sure that ring laser gyros don't actually spin like relating to the supposed geometry of the Earth and how the Earth is spinning. No, they just spin perpendicular to wherever you are. So that means that wherever you're holding this ring laser gyro and it's drifting, that's apparently the axis of the ball Earth you're standing on right there. So it, even with that claim, it just doesn't make any sense. The only thing that's spinning is light, 15 degrees an hour. Apparently, very mysterious. But it's not a physical gyro anyway, so...
Right, but what Nathan is saying is that they actually argue against the deviation.
Well, that's when they start to claim Coriolis.
Yeah, that's what the gyro is. It's a demonstration of the Coriolis deviation we would observe from the ground if Earth was rotating underneath an inertial reference frame at a rate of 15 degrees an hour. Now, they just say, quote, 15 degrees an hour. They might strap on the end, proves Earth spinning. But they don't imply what that actually means. 15 degrees an hour as Earth rotates underneath planes, drones, hot air balloons, helicopters, you if you jump up and down.
Well, this is where QE's assertion and teaching on this subject is vital when he says it's the cause of coriolis is what I'm interested in. Maybe you could touch on that, Nathan.
Yeah, sure. So when I phrase it now, I'm very careful to lead the audience with my method. So I phrase it as thus. What's that? There's a plane in the air deviating. It's only deviating because I'm turning underneath it. It's not really deviating. That's called Coriolis effect, you know. Me looking up at that plane in the air, because I'm a globe believer, it looks like it's curving. It's not really curving. The plane doesn't have to account for it or worry about it, because it's a not actual deviation from my vantage point on the ground, because I'm turning underneath that aeroplane. I'm a globe believer. I'm detailing Coriolis, just the same as Neil deGrasse Tyson does. He says, you see the ball seem to curve from the stand? Not really curving. Earth turning under the ball. Like Earth's turning under this plane I see seem to curve. So I'm turning under the plane. Well, I'm not, because that would shorten the flight time if it was travelling west. Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles would be an hour and a half if I was observing the plane seem to curve because I'm moving underneath it. But I'm not.
Right. I still don't understand, though, how any sort of gyroscope would relate to Coriolis effect, because it's like spinning in its little frame. You can't really even see that. So
yeah, you're talking about its cage. Its frame, however, to be accurately describing what you're detailing, is the inertial reference frame. It is fixed in that frame. So it's not deviating in that frame. So why does the cage drift around the fixed frame of the gyro? Well, that would be because it's attached to Earth turning underneath it, demonstrating that Earth's turning underneath, because the gyro is not drifting. Gyros don't drift. It's an apparent drift because Earth's turning underneath it, according to their claim. So we've got an inertial reference frame with the gyro and a non-inertial spinning reference frame turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour. So you claim to be turning underneath an inertial reference frame. That's what Coriolis is. So the inertial reference frame is you looking at the plane that's travelling straight, not actually drifting, but from your vantage point, claimed to be spinning underneath. It seems to curve. And I'll again highlight, the plane doesn't have to account for that because it's only an observation of an apparent, not actual deviation. It just seems to be curving because you claim to be turning underneath it. Well, if you're turning underneath it, it shortens the flight time.
Hey, everybody.
Moving on. Oh,
Yeah,
anybody
good one.
So
anyone else
hold
got
on.
anything to add on Earth
I
turn?
might say one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Arwen, you go first.
No,
I'll go after Arwen.
I just wanted to quickly round out the concept by saying, okay, so the only way Coriolis effect would relate to gyroscopes is if the Earth was actually spinning, then there would be the reference frame change because of the gyro wanting to be exactly as it is in its orientation. But in reality, it's not. So it doesn't actually relate to the Coriolis effect. But if the Earth were a spinning ball, it would have to be.
Yeah, that's
just
their
like
claim.
all the other things.
Exactly.
Right?
So you use it against them. So you want to claim that gyroscopes are proving Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour, the only bit they actually say. Well, okay, let's take that as read. So Earth's turning underneath the inertial reference frame that the gyro's in at 15 degrees an hour. So we've got Coriolis effect. Okay. Well, then we'd see the plane leave the ground. It's no longer attached like the ball you throw off a roundabout's no longer attached. Same effect. Coriolis effect. So I'm going to see the plane seem to drift at 15 degrees an hour because it's not attached anymore. And what do you get in response? Oh, they're travelling together, Earth and atmosphere. Well, that's not 15 degrees an hour then. That's not what you're claiming then. You're claiming we see drift. And then justifying why we don't with a nonsense assertion that Earth is velcroed to its atmosphere, which is in defiance of gas law. Gas doesn't behave like that. It's unbonded. It's not attached to anything. And we've got multiple directions of surface winds. So that's nonsense. And it wouldn't give you 15 degrees an hour drift, which is the very thing they're claiming proves Earth spins. But if we had it, the flight times would be shortened because Earth's got to turn underneath them to show 15 degrees an hour drift. An apparent deviation because you're turning underneath the plane or the hot air balloon or the drone. It just whizzes away from you at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. Why? Well, because you're turning underneath it. It's not really moving at all. It's hovering, but you're turning underneath. So it looks like it whizzes away at 1,000 miles an hour. It isn't. Oh, my bad. Nobody experiences their drones whizzing away from them at 1,000 miles on the equator. That would be 15 degrees an hour, by the way. Nobody experiences that. And flight times are not reduced because Earth is not turning underneath anything. But it must if they've got a claim of 15 degrees an hour. That's what the 15 degrees an hour is. Earth turning underneath stuff.
Oh, by the way... Oh, sorry. You go first. You were waiting.
All right, thanks. Even if the Earth was rotating, the ring laser gyro or fiber optic gyro has still nothing to do with the Coriolis effect. It doesn't have eyes to see. It's not a sentient being. It can't look up and see this apparent drift. All it could do would be supposedly is detect a 15-degree rotation from underneath it, as it would be in the inertial reference frame. You have to be somebody in the non-inertial reference frame who can look up, who has a mind, can think, and then can actually see and observe that something is appearing to apparently deviate.
Yeah,
so the ring laser gyroscope.
Yeah, that's what they're claiming.
To do.
Sorry to interrupt. That's what they're claiming.
Yeah.
So the cage is drifting around the fixed frame of the gyro at 15 degrees an hour. That's what they're saying when they say it's drifting. Look, it's drifting. Well, no, it's not drifting. It's a fixed frame of reference. That's what a gyro does. But the apparent deviation is what you will observe the cage around the gyro, if you could describe it in that way, because that's attached to the non-inertial spinning reference frame. So what you see in terms of the deviation from one to the other at 15 degrees an hour is claimed to demonstrate Earth is turning underneath. You're just observing it, and what you're observing is Coriolis deviation in the gyro, according to their claim. So you just take it as read. Okay, so we see inertial reference frame with the gyro spinning away, not deviating, and then the cage deviating around it because Earth's turning underneath it, and we're seeing it at a rate of 15 degrees an hour. Okay, so we've got Coriolis effect. That's your claim. So we've got two separate reference frames, and anything that's not attached will drift at 15 degrees an hour. Okay, why doesn't the plane do that then? What's that you say we wouldn't expect to see drift? Doesn't that sound familiar? Haven't you just claimed we're going to get drift, though? That's what we get.
Yeah, but my point being is that to experience the Coriolis effect, you have to be an actual physical being who has eyes, who can look up and experience this effect, as it's just a visual thing. So yes. It doesn't matter what the ring laser or fiber optic gyroscopes are doing. They have absolutely nothing to do with Coriolis effect.
No, it's just associated to it when they say that it's drifting.
You could actually film that on camera, because that's been exampled by a merry-go-round with a drone over it in the inertial reference frame appearing to drift.
Yeah, he's half right, Chocolate. He's half right, but he's incorrect because you could detail how something is drifting, and that's precisely what they do with the gyro. Their assertion is false, and what Brian is saying is to experience Coriolis effect, the only way to experience Coriolis effect is as an observer from a spinning reference frame. So as soon as they come back with they're spinning together, it's like, okay, you're detailing what's happening to the plane with its atmosphere. It's nothing to do with Coriolis effect. Because Coriolis effect, as Brian's trying to example here, is only ever you observing something seem to drift. So you've got to be on a roundabout, looking at something that's a lamppost concreted into the ground, not on the roundabout, looking like it's coming towards you. Well, that's you experiencing that. Not a gyro, that's just some mechanical gizmo doing something. Now, what you see it do isn't you on a roundabout seeing something come towards you. That's actual Coriolis effect by experience, which is what Brian's saying. Unless I'm wrong, Brian.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. You can't experience it if you're not a conscious being with eyeballs and a mind to think. Other than that, it's purely visual effect. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's the effect, and the causes of that effect are what debunk the claim Earth is spinning. So the effect is claimed to be 15 degrees an hour deviation. You observing it, though, well, you observing it in what? The inertial reference frame. Anything that's in the inertial reference frame is something not attached to a claim to be spinning Earth. But we don't experience that. And as soon as they detail why we don't experience a plane doing that, it's got sod all to do with Coriolis effect, because that's you observing it doing it.
You're right, Nathan. I was arguing from the point of view of the effect and not the cause. You were speaking more about the cause. So actually what I came in and said there had no relevance to what you were actually talking about.
No, it's still relevant, because the cause is where we debunk it. So when we debunk it, that also has nothing to do with Coriolis effect. But the necessity to have Earth turning underneath an aeroplane would mean that flight times were shortened, because Earth's turning under the aeroplane. Well, again, Earth turning under an aeroplane is nothing to do with you observing Coriolis effect, but that would be the cause of the Coriolis effect they claim.
Yes.
Hey, Nathan, can I, this is perfect. We always talk about the Socratic method, and just what you did there in that example by saying, oh, so you're saying the Earth is turning 15 degrees. So just a little bit of the Socratic method being used here by thought.co. The Socratic method is named after Greek philosopher Socrates, who taught students by asking question after question. Socrates sought to expose contradictions in the students' thoughts and ideas to then guide them to solid, tenable conclusions. The method is still popular in legal classrooms today. So you just did that, by the way.
Well, you realise that's all we do here. That's what we apply here on the debate. So to entice our opponent into an explanation, which we very rarely get, of what they claim, so we can take it apart based on the Socratic method. Do we agree on terms? What do you mean by that particular word? What do you have as the definition for that particular word? That's all we ask here. All we are doing here is employing the Socratic, get my tongue around it, the Socratic method. It's also got another shortened singular word to describe this. Do you know what it is?
What's that?
Semantics.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah,
that's word and meaning.
Sorry.
But that's been changed as a get out of jail card when they get stuck and their conclusions don't match logic, right? Oh, you're just using semantics, but it doesn't work.
Correct.
Yeah, because they want to use a word like level and make it, and horizontal. Say level and horizontal are the same when it suits them, but also horizontal will bend because level bends when it suits them. It's stuff like that. You know, they need that. They need to be able to bend horizontal.
Well, semantics are the enemy of doublespeak. So semantics are the enemy of doublespeak.
Speaking of, do you want me to pull in Brian on the thing we discussed, or do you want to go through the housekeeping questions still?
Well, again, we've spent about 15-20 minutes on Coriolis effect and the claim that Earth is spinning, which is then rebutted by them to say we don't experience Coriolis effect. And there's no 15 degrees an hour, the Earth's travelling with the aeroplane. You know, and I'm more than happy to labour this, because yesterday's show was on Earth curve, and we touched on the black swan, but not very much. So that's, you know, in the bag for when we talk about R. But for the meantime, I quite like the fact, I'm quite smug about the fact, after 2 years of debating Coriolis effect, we can now summarise it and discuss it like we are now, without being concerned about angles that aren't necessarily covered concisely. Because they are! And it's taken 2 years. It's taken a long time.
Well,
Thank you, Zan.
Go on.
He was giving kudos to Zanuck, because Zanuck was the first to make it click in my mind when he was telling me.
Me.
Yeah, you were, I know. That you can only experience Coriolis from the non-inertial spinning reference frame. I think he said it in that pretty much in those exact words.
Yeah, I was
And
on
if
that
you
show
remember,
like
that
many
went on
other...
for about 45 minutes, and then he finally dropped that jewel.
Yeah, and it suddenly twigs, because I was telling him that you could experience it from the inertial reference frame. I can be in any reference frame I like. I'm Miley fucking Cyrus. I can get on that pendulum and be a part of that non-inertial or inertial reference frame, depending on which part of it I'm on. And he told me, you can only experience Coriolis from the non-inertial spinning reference frame. And you go, of course! It's you observing, not actual deviation. So what the plane's doing is irrelevant, because that's not you observing the plane.
He had,
What is
I
it?
think he,
Right, that's
I
just
think
regular motion. Right?
The motion in the inertial reference frame is irrelevant. That's why I now use a lamppost, concrete it into the ground, make it fixed and stationary and concreted, because I still see it coming towards me. Well, that's me experiencing not actual deflection. Lampost's not moving. Now, if you take that and say, oh, okay, well, it's in a plane. It's now a plane that you're watching in the air. Okay, it's just me on the roundabout watching the plane. Well, it doesn't matter if that plane's doing loop-de-loops in the sky. My Coriolis on a roundabout is me going towards that bit of the sky and seeing the plane, and then it going away from me. The fact that the plane's doing loop-de-loops in the sky is absolutely irrelevant to the not actual deviation I experience from the roundabout. And the same is implied when you go over to an assumption that Earth is spinning. I am claimed to be spinning underneath the plane at 15 degrees an hour, shortening flight times. That doesn't happen. Drones don't drift away from you. Hot air balloons don't wait for continents to come to them. So we don't have Earth turning underneath in the same way I was turning underneath a lamppost on a roundabout. We're not doing that on Earth, or we'd see things drift.
he would not tell us, but he would go from the non-inertial reference frame, jump into the inertial reference frame inside the plane and look out the plane window and continue his dialogue, but he didn't tell us that's what he was doing.
Yeah, they want to argue for why we don't see drift, and they'll detail an example that's taking place in the inertial reference frame, like you running up and down a plane. It's like that's never going to generate a Coriolis effect, because you must be on an inertial, a non-inertial spinning reference frame, looking up at something seem to drift. So you on the plane, not only does the plane not have to worry about Coriolis effect, because it's only a not actual effect experience from a guy looking at the plane from the ground. So the plane's not going to compensate for Coriolis effect, absolutely not. But they'll imply that that's exactly what the plane's doing. It's overcoming Coriolis effect with its engines. So what? They get a tannoy call coming in. This is ground control. There is a man observing your plane seem to drift. Please can you increase thrust? No.
I must shout out Brandon Toy again, because he has 3 of Jose's best, all giving different explanations as to how they account while in the inertial reference frame for Coriolis. How they account for the Coriolis force. This is what he has Bob the Science Guy, Blue Marble Science, and George Netchuk all talking about the Coriolis force and how they account for it while they're in whatever, an airplane or a car.
Know what Coriolis is?
So they don't understand Coriolis, any of them, then, because if they're detailing how to account for this not actual force in a reference frame that you cannot observe Coriolis from, that basically means that Blue Marble Science, Bob the Science Guy, Pervert, and who was the other one, George Netchuk? Yeah, that none of them understand Coriolis effect.
That's correct.
Wait,
Well, why
are
is
you
it-
saying that what we talked about the other day, the guy didn't experience Coriolis in his car?
They're under the.
That's
Oh my god.
who was it again, Chocolate?
Jeez. I think it was Bob the Science Guy, or the Fallacy Guy, should even call that. But these morons are not even like intellectually honest enough to just admit, yeah, the plane itself is not accounting for Coriolis, it's accounting for the damn Earth rotating underneath it. Not an apparent deviation. Like, like, it's so ridiculous, man.
Nathan, are you claiming that flat earthers are the only ones who can break down Coriolis correctly and
No,
understand it?
I don't think half the flat earthers out there would be able to break down Coriolis or detail it back to you if you asked them to. I'm not being offensive, I just think that's how it is.
I think you're actually right, because I've heard a few kind of just muck it all up.
Hardly
I
anybody
agree with
knows, and I know why as well. I looked into it, I tried to debunk it, and I got all the convoluted doublespeak nonsense from Google that you could get on every entry as you look through it. And it'll leave you confused, not understanding how Coriolis works. And it's actually really simple. but there aren't no simple, straightforward explanations for how Coriolis would be detailed. There's a GIF in the wiki entry with a tiny little bit of scroll underneath it off to the right, and then a whole load of nonsense talk about how hurricanes, which are actual rotation directions, or have actual rotation directions, how they are somehow involved in Coriolis effect. And as we detailed the other week, unless you're the cow in Twister whipping around, seeing things seem to come towards you and then seem to go away, well, unless you're that cow, you're not experiencing Coriolis effect unless you're part of the hurricane, i.e. you're part of the inertial, non-inertial spinning reference frame that is the hurricane, seeing a house that's concreted in the ground seem to come towards you because you're spinning towards it. Not actual deflection of the house because you're in a hurricane. But they don't detail that. They detail you looking at something with an actual spin direction when they are referencing the not actual deflection of Coriolis effect. So me being able to concisely summarise that just from looking it up and getting the wrong information leads me to understand implicitly why half the people, not even half, most people in this arena won't understand what Coriolis effect is.
Nathan, it's also known as a fictitious force or a pseudo force. So why would they name something that?
Because nothing's actually drifting. As I look up in my example on a claim to be spinning Earth at an aeroplane seeming to take a curved path, the plane's actually travelling straight. But I see it seem to curve because I'm claimed to turn underneath it. Of course, if that actually happened, I'd be turning underneath aeroplanes and their flight times would be shortened when going west. But that's what they claim. 15 degrees an hour deviation, and it's not actual deviation. A pseudo force, not actual force, fictitious force, because the plane's not deviating. So all these dicks like George Netanyahu and Bob the Fallacy Guy and Blue Marble Science, who are telling you what you need to do to account for the Coriolis force, don't understand that it's a not actual deflection. Just you looking up at something seem to curve because you're rotating underneath it. Well, you don't account for that in the plane. Like I explained earlier, they don't get a call over the tannoy from ground control saying, you've got a guy looking at your plane, and from his vantage point, spinning underneath your plane, it looks like your plane's curving, so you better make corrections so the guy on the ground can look at you seeming to go straight when you're actually curving because you've added curve where you were going straight. It's nonsense. You don't account for Coriolis effect in an aeroplane because Coriolis effect is the guy on the ground looking at it seem to curve because he's claimed to be turning underneath the plane. And what do you know? That would shorten flight times.
Control.
No, it's an effect. It's not a force.
Pseudo force, not actual force. That's correct.
Yeah, so why do they use the word force?
Because you can see it. It's apparent. The plane is apparently taking a curved path. I can see that happen. It's not actually happening, but I'm definitely seeing it seem to curve. So it's a pseudo force. The force that's creating the curve, what curve? It's not. It's travelling straight. So the fact that I can see it is a pseudo force created by me turning underneath the plane, according to the claim that we're turning. Of course, that would shorten flight times travelling west. Pseudo force, not actual.
It's ridiculous that they even drew in the word force. It has nothing to do with it.
That's exactly what I was just going to say.
Why even mention force in there at all? It's just like specific gravity, you know? It has nothing to do with gravity.
That's why my favorite definition
and mainstream
is the one that has been provided to me by so many of these ballers, the one that describes the Coriolis effect as an apparent effect, an illusion produced by a rotating frame of reference. An illusion.
Yeah.
That's what
we gotta definitely analyze that illusion with science, right?
Yeah.
And give it force names and all
effect.
That. Makes so much sense.
Yeah. Because
someone needs to tell
that forces.
Someone needs to tell the Three Stooges, don't they? Because these Three Stooges on the globe side are telling their audiences how to account for and correct for an illusion. You don't need to account for or correct for illusions. They're morons.
Yeah, they're speaking about it from the wrong reference frame as well. They're talking about it from the inertial reference frame. I would say to anyone out there on the flat outside to do not call the Coriolis a pseudo force. Just call it an effect, Coriolis effect, because the ballers are taking the term pseudo force, and they're taking the word pseudo out of it and calling it the Coriolis force. Take the word force completely out of it. The Coriolis effect.
That's
all
fine.
it is, a visual effect.
In language terms, that's fine. You can call it the Coriolis force, but understanding that it's a not actual deflection, that's what Coriolis force is, a pseudo force. You can add that on after the fact and still call it Coriolis force. Doesn't change the fact that it's a not actual deviation. Just a quick shout out to Unicorn Laser Eyes, who says a cum virus says, quote, conservation, Coriolis is the conservation of angular momentum. So maybe Unicorn Laser Eyes is hoping for me to correct that. So no, the conservation of momentum is the conservation of momentum, and, quote, Coriolis effect is Coriolis effect.
Wait, hold up. What would be conserving momentum anyway, if that was what was going on?
Nothing. You claim to be observing it from a non-inertial reference frame.
Also, you're saying that not the observation, the projectile or whatever it is that you're looking at would be conserving momentum.
Definitely not, because
that would have
definitely not.
That would have
that's not
nothing
Coriolis.
to do with
no.
Coriolis.
Yeah, that's right, Chocolate. Nothing to do with Coriolis. If you're talking about what the projectile does, like I exampled earlier, the plane could be doing loop-to-loops as I'm on a roundabout underneath it. Well, the plane, whilst doing loop-to-loops, coming towards me and then going away, because I'm on a roundabout, it coming towards me and going away is the Coriolis deviation. It's not really coming towards me and then going away rapidly. I'm turning underneath it on a merry-go-round. Well, that's the not actual pseudo force of Coriolis right there. The force that makes the plane come towards me. It isn't. It's just it's in the sky doing its thing. But that's the claim of Coriolis. Me observing the plane seem to come towards me on a roundabout. Well, they also claim that happens on a spinning Earth. You turn underneath stuff and there's 15 degrees an hour deviation. As a result, well, the 15 degrees is you seeing that plane in the air come towards you at whatever rate you're turning on a claim to be spinning Earth. Well, that's not actual deflection, because the plane's not deflecting. It's just doing whatever it does in the sky. But you're turning underneath it, according to the globe Earth claim. And of course, if you were turning underneath it while it's doing its loop-de-loops, and then you pass it, and then you carry on going past it at 15 degrees an hour, of course, a different country would arrive by the time he finished his acrobatics display. And the fact that he's been doing loop-de-loops is irrelevant to the not actual deflection that's claimed, which would bring a continent to it while he's distracted doing loop-de-loops. Shout out to Sean Tibbets, who says, cool, with a super chat. Thank you very much indeed. It is cool. We don't have
I got a
deviation.
small question about the conservation of momentum. Isn't the conservation of momentum what kind of makes the gyroscope do what it typically does? Like, it conserves the constant spinning momentum, and that has this rigid effect?
Maybe.
Or
maybe. Nothing to do with Coriolis, though.
No, absolutely not. It's literal. Momentum is physical. Momentum has to deal with forces. That's a real thing. It's not an illusion.
The conservation of angular momentum, let's just say, would be if you were spinning on a children's roundabout and you jumped off and you got thrown at an angle away from it. That's the conservation of the momentum of that. Whereas with a gyroscope, it's power.
Yeah,
you understand what I mean?
However, Coriolis effect would be you on the roundabout watching your mate jump off, and because the roundabout's going quite fast, as he jumps off, you pass him on the roundabout. So he jumps off, and then you carry on going past him, and you go, "Wow, it looks like he curved around past me." Well, that's Coriolis. You know, you being on the roundabout still while the guy who jumps off isn't, and the fact that you see him seem to curve off it. He's not actually curving off it. It just seems that way from your vantage point as you spin past him, still spinning when he isn't. Now, if it's claimed that he retains a bit of velocity when he jumps off, well, that's fair enough. Sod all to do with the observation that I see from the roundabout, though. That's Coriolis effect. So it doesn't matter how much he retains, doesn't retain. It doesn't matter if he jumps in the air and does a triple flip, landing perfectly. The bit that is Coriolis is me still on the roundabout, going past him and going, wow, it looks like he curved past me as he did that double tuck. Yeah, the double tuck is irrelevant, though. Me going past him on the roundabout, seeing him seem to curve past me, that's Coriolis. And that would happen on Earth. So you've got an acrobatics display in the air from a few planes, And while you're watching them distracted in the air doing their acrobatics, you go underneath them. So you're then looking up at them, and then you go past them. And then you've got to look the other way to see them as they go past, because you're turning underneath them, apparently. And then when they've finished their acrobatics, they go to land, and they go, whoa, whoa, there's a different country underneath us now. Of course, that doesn't happen.
It's interesting. Someone referenced virus in chat. Isn't this the guy who has endless reference frames on his shoulder?
Yeah, he didn't understand Coriolis either.
He claimed that you can actually leave a reference frame without. Oh, damn it! I forgot. It was so weird.
You can take the reference frame with you.
Throw it on the shoulder.
You can take it with you. That was his claim. You can take the reference frame with you.
Leave your pants without changing your pants.
Right.
Well, come on.
Other way around.
Virus.
You can change your pants without leaving your pants. I think you can leave your pants without changing your pants, wasn't it? So you take them off, but you keep them over your shoulder, and that's like a reference frame that you take with you. It's like, yeah, but for Coriolis to exist, the projectile might be changing reference frames when you release a ball from a roundabout, for the sake of example, but you are observing it changing reference frames. You're still on the same reference frame. You're not taking the reference frame of the ball with you. And if you got off the roundabout, you'd no longer be capable of observing a Coriolis effect to begin with. If you're the guy jumping off, you're not observing Coriolis effect. You're jumping off a non-inertial spinning reference frame into the inertial reference frame. But the guy who's still on the roundabout can observe that while he's still in the non-inertial spinning reference frame on the roundabout.
Yeah, excellent. That's exactly it, Nathan. You and the other guy are on the roundabout. The other guy jumps off. You observe him, right, conserving angular momentum. And while observing him, you also observe the Coriolis effect, because you're still on the roundabout.
Yeah.
Wow. I see somebody in chat who says now that the Coriolis is negligible compared to the natural going on.
Oh, that's fine. We have a claim from your side, Mr. Negligible Coriolis deviation. It's 15 degrees an hour, according to your claim of Earth turning underneath an inertial reference frame. So while you might claim the word negligible as a baseless assertion, it's got a rate 15 degrees an hour.
Now he's asking, why do we have to account for it? Why do flat earthers think we have to account for?
Account for the thing you claim proves Earth spins? Why would we need to account for the thing you claim is in effect proving Earth spin? We don't care, but it is your claim that you're now asking us to defend why your claim should be defended. Why should you defend the fact that you say there's 15 degrees an hour? Not us, you moron, from the chat.
Can I see if I
he
can
realize this is his argument?
No, they don't half the time.
What's wrong with these people?
We've
He's
literally
a
had people
round Earth observer, so he's got.
Let me just speak chocolate just for a sec, Arwin. Hold on one sec. Say that again, chocolate.
I said, doesn't he realize that this is their argument?
No, and in recent days we've had people come on the show and tell us that the P statement in the Black Swan, which is the assertion that the Earth is a sphere, is a straw man argument and our claim. Not appreciating that that's their fundamentalist religious belief. And in this instance, the guy from the chat's asking us why they should show 15 degrees an hour. That's essentially what he's asking. Why should I show my claim that Earth's spinning at 15 degrees an hour? Why would I have to demonstrate that to you, flat earthers? Because it's your claim.
Shout out to
Can I say something real quick?
Sorry.
Can I say something real quick? They always use this argument when it comes to gas pressure that that you can consider the Earth a closed system because there's very little gas escaping. Well, if the negligibility of the Coriolis effect is negligible, then you can consider it not moving, right? If I use the same logic.
Pretty much. That's the purpose of them saying that word, because we can't detect it or measure it. Therefore, it's negligible.
And what's it? Well, it is the 15 degrees an hour they claim they do detect.
So, Nathan...
I just want to quickly just throw in, sorry, quickly.
Go ahead.
Akam Virus from chat said, Nathan, we don't measure the deviation in degrees. No, Akam Virus, we don't measure deviation at all.
Yeah, but they do. Globers claim 15 degrees an hour deviation. It gets parroted off like Bob Nodell's proven it all the time. 15 degrees. There's even a chat troll with that name, 15 degrees an hour. So what, that chat troll's just wrong, is he? Just let him know on on us that he's wrong, that you don't, apparently, right?
Yeah, but even more than that, it's not that we just don't measure 15 degrees an hour at all, or any degrees an hour at all of the Earth. I'm talking about you just don't measure the deviation. It's just a visual thing that happens. You don't measure it at all because you're not looking down on the rotating reference frame. You're on the rotating reference frame, looking at something appearing to deviate.
I'm going to assume that you're using reverse psychology so that they say, no, we do measure it in a gyro as Earth rotates underneath the fixed frame of the gyro in the inertial reference frame, so we can go, great. And that would shorten flight times because they do claim to measure it in the gyro. Just a quick shout out to Rakia Life, who says, don't let this money deviate from providing truth. Rakia Life is alive and well. Thank you very much indeed for the $14.99 super chat. Really appreciate it, Dave Rakia Gafford.
Right. Okay,
Arwen, can I get to my question, please?
Okay.
You've been everyone clear the air for 10th man. He's been waiting a while.
Okay, before I get to my question, just don't they say the Foucault pendulum does the same thing?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, my question is angular momentum. So if an airplane is taking off at the equator, say at some airport, and the Earth is spinning over 1,000 miles an hour, what would happen to that airplane as it took off if angular momentum, the way they look at it? Would that plane be going backwards?
Yeah. QE likes to have him over a barrel on this. It's very amusing when he does.
So when they come in, maybe you can give us a clue on the psychology of why they say angular momentum when it's so easy to kill with just that demonstration.
Of course, that claim with the plane invariably going backwards in their example doesn't give you 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth's rotating underneath and would require a violation of how gas behaves, because gas is not velcroed to a claim to be, begging the question, spinning Earth, to have a plane appear to be going backwards in line with the spin of the Earth when it retains the velocity of the atmosphere that's attached to an Earth that they beg the question of it being spinning, to get around the fact they haven't got the 15 degrees an hour deviation they claim proves Earth spins.
Right, but if I'm a baller, why would I bring in angular momentum when it just makes me look even more silly based on what it actually is the way you just described it?
Because they don't have 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth rotates underneath, even though they claim they do. So they've got to get around the fact that they haven't got it by justifying it with a begging the question fallacy. Well, we don't have 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth rotates underneath, because Earth doesn't rotate underneath the plane. Oh, really? Well, that's destroying your argument, though, isn't it? Kind of like saying we don't have a geometric horizon. It only exists in the maths, even though you claim it blocks boats and buildings. It's kind of a paradox, really.
Yeah.
Shout out to
You go.
Sorry, just one quickly. Shout out to SE Montreal in the chat, because SE Montreal has been fighting the coriolis effect being just a visual effect fight for ages over in Jose's and other places. And he has something. He says, why don't we just call it the coriolis vision, because it's just a visual effect.
Yeah, well worth it, because most people don't recognise that detail, and it's a crucial detail, SE Montreal. So good, big, massive shout out to you. Fight the good fight, my friend. But yes, absolutely, it's the coriolis visual effect.
Illusion.
Right. So can I round out this housekeeping question with the ultimate baller rebuttal? Nathan?
Feel free.
All right. So Nathan, how would you prove the Earth is spinning?
How would I prove it? So this is going to be clearly this is going to be what's attributed to Craig, Fight the Flat Earth, from here on in. The burden of proof reversal fallacy. So when you fail on your ass to prove something like the Earth spinning, you're going to say, well, opponent who's destroying this claim I make, how would you prove my claim that I failed to prove?
Yep.
Right, so that's going to round out. Second day in a row we've covered just one housekeeping question. I'm not trying to, but, it's good that we are.
Where are all the ballers with all their proofs of apparent deviations all over the place? I don't understand. How have we been talking about this for almost 40 minutes?
We got one.
Nobody jumped in.
Virus has been in the whole time.
Chat.
No, I want to call him out. Virus, come out of chat. You're a baller. Come and tell us why our interpretation of angular momentum is different than yours. And our interpretation of the coriolis effect, the pseudo-force effect, is different than yours. Please, come.
And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this live, unfortunately, that is where we bid you farewell. If you're watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, however, stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. A massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 Premiering streams, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
You know, it's probably better. Like, I mean, Virus coming on, it's just going to be the same old argument he had before. Nathan is absolutely, well, he won't even have to try. He doesn't have to do anything. He just knows, he just tells him the truth. He'll argue, there'll be back and forth. And it'll just be a waste of Nathan's time, really, isn't it?
Well, sure, but it's for the audience. Maybe someone new is tuned in and they're trying to figure out with a multiple reference frame how you can leave your pants and not leave your pants at the same time. What the heck?
Yeah.
Nathan does not know about coriolis.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, they'll claim, you know, like Rumpus will say, Nathan has no clue what coriolis is.
All right.
So, you know.
That's okay. That's all they've got. Personal attack
Rumpus,
rather
you
than a
don't
defense for
understand.
the lack
Rumpus
of coriolis.
just doesn't understand.
Then he'll go
Sorry.
on to start talking about if you run in a train. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, they'll talk about what happens in the inertial reference frame, which is not coriolis.
Well, if you run in the
Just
train,
their attempt to control the narrative and actually what we're speaking about, because it's something I noticed the other day with Conspiracy Cats when he was talking to Gloomy, how he tried to change the topic of, or the question of how do we have gas pressure without a container into how do you have pressurized gas without a container. And somebody else did it maybe a couple weeks afterwards, a few days ago maybe. And it's something I've noticed a lot. So it's almost the same thing. It's like they're kind of trying to control where we go with this. It's
Taka,
like,
can you repeat that what they said again? That sounded weird.
what? Oh, who? Conspiracy Cats.
How can we have gas pressure without a container? What was his follow-up?
Pressurized gas.
Oh no, his thing was, oh, you guys are asking the wrong questions. You should be asking, how do you have pressurized gas without a container?
Oh, okay. No worries.
Oh.
Can I just parrot that back? How can we have pressurized gas without a container?
Yeah, that's kind of difficult because we kind of need a container to pressurize gas. So
It makes no difference. Sorry, paraphrasing it. No worries. I don't mind paraphrasing it that way from now on. And I'm sure, by the fact that we've obliged this man so easily, no worries. How can you have pressurized gas without a container? Do you want to show us that? Now that we'll concede that we should be saying pressurized. Yeah, well, your containerless Earth in a vacuum isn't going to be pressurized. The gas would fill the space. Quote, Conspiracy Cats 2019. Without the container, there can be no pressure. End quote. Pressurize my ass. Same thing.
Funny being that's the same guy. Funny that.
Not funny. Mental.
all right. And when you ask it, then we should definitely ask, so how are you experiencing coriolis affecting your steering wheel when driving on the road?
Yeah, Canva apparently is something that needs accounting for when you're observing the guy not drifting with the Canva that is drift. Oh, they don't understand coriolis. They're morons. Who changed the name of the Aftershow to Romper Room?
What?
Hands up. Who changed the name?
I noticed that yesterday. It might have been Righteous. You can ask him. He might be listening in.
Romper Room.
How fitting.
Just for the audience's benefit, the reason it's probably been renamed is because, unlike the live stream, which if you come in, I have to unmute you. So you can't just come in and completely disrupt a conversation, which is what used to happen when it was just G+. Whereas when we move over to Romper Room, everyone's instantly off mute. So, if someone wants to cause chaos, they potentially can.
That's definitely
Well,
QE. Yeah, for sure.
There should be a lot of balls in Romper Room.
Well, like it's a little play pit full of balls.
Yeah, the ballers show up, right? They want to play with the ball.
Any Globers in
They
there?
don't speak up until Nathan goes.
It's not as much Glober monopolized as it used to be even like a year ago. Remember? It was always where the ballers gathered. Now, I don't know, I regularly hear flat earthers speak up from there. The ballers are just slipping away.
Yeah, Black Swan.
Like grains of salt in an hourglass. They're just slipping away.
Black Swan.
Yeah, your chocolate's right. In the last 9 months, Arwin, since January the 1st, 2020, when the Black Swan came out, you can watch the decline of baller participation based on their... I bet you could tally the two graphs. Baller comprehension of the Black Swan, baller participation in debate. One would follow the other and they'd cross somewhere in between.
Exactly. I've been noticing that. Hey, we got Brian here. We got Brian here, Nathan, and yesterday in the after show, he made a connection with Pythagoras with 8 inches per mile, all the way down to current baller Pickle Rick. Take it away, Brian.
Hold on, Elijah, go ahead.
I was just saying, this is why it seems like some of the stragglers are reverting back to the old arguments, because their leaders aren't exactly in the mix, so they don't particularly know what to do. Like, they don't have any new arguments, and so they just watch old YouTube videos or the new YouTube videos from these idiots, and that's why the ones that aren't like the Rumpuses of the world and the conspiracy cats, that's why they're coming to us with these redundant arguments, because they have no new marching orders, because we've killed them dead.
Yeah, you can't get around the Black Swan. Chocolate's bang on. Elijah's correct. Yeah, what are you going to do? Well, the end is nigh. The globe is dead. The model's untenable. It's left with a rebuttal that debunks itself. A paradox, as Owen puts it. You've got nowhere to go from that. That's not going to go away. The paradoxical nature of the Black Swan image presented on screen right now will not just go away. You haven't got a geometric horizon. You're telling us so. That's it. It's game over. What are you going to do?
Well, they can always try to ask us to please prove their claim for them, because it's just become so difficult.
I don't think you're going to squeeze that for a second joke, Arwin. But you can try.
No, I'm not going to do it with the Black Swan. It's completely... Yeah, there's no maneuvering room left,
Come on, Arwin. They would ask you, where would you go to see the geometric horizon, Arwin?
Yeah, perfect. Arwin was talking about that yesterday. No, hold on. I've got a joke. How would you draw a tape measure out to the geometric horizon when you're assuming the spherical surface beneath it, Arwin? How would you do that?
I don't know. I would need some serious finances to get some really big ass rulers that are very straight. and then eventually
just draw a straight line somewhere. Just draw a straight line somewhere and call it a tangent.
What, like this guy on screen with it in Muppet vision?
Yeah, but that you can't technically do that anymore, because of terrestrial refraction.
Why? Just draw a tangent line somewhere, and then they got to assume that tangent line's hitting a curved surface.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't prove it. The problem is with the Black Swan.
Well, who cares? They don't care about that, so we shouldn't either, right? Yeah. Let's be Globers.
Hold on. No, look, the last resort for ballers in general will be to ask us how to prove their claim for them, because they lost. But with terrestrial refraction, you can't even do that, because it's a paradox. It doesn't matter how good you are. You can never prove a paradox because it's a paradox. It's a dead end.
No, Arwen. Where would you draw a straight tangent line to a pre-assumed curved surface and then back it up with a radius? Sorry, with oh, it's gone. So sorry, scrap that one.
I know.
I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, it can't work. You know, the claim of terrestrial refraction, what it does, that it literally is curving light at 7/6 r. It's once that is basically claimed, it just technically becomes impossible to actually prove that through optics. So it doesn't matter how hard you try, it's just impossible.
It's not optics. As on screen right now, it's not optics. We're in a side profile, orthographic, geometric representation. And they've got their description of what you just described, 7/6r, bending the light that you see the horizon. That's what they've got marked here as H. Well, what's this dotted line? That's the requirement for a tangent, because it's geometry. So what's based on this then? Where is this line that's dotted, not dotted? Well, in Al-Biruni's claim that you can see this straight line that doesn't exist beyond the mathematics of geometry. Therein lies the paradox. You can't have the line to the horizon bent with refraction when refraction's based on R, 7/6r, and then just say, oh, well, we only have this dotted line assumed in the maths. Well, you're just assuming it in the maths of geometry that's side on and ignoring perspective then. I.e., globe Earth only exists in maths. Literally.
They're only assuming it because they could never actually physically prove it.
Yeah,
Arwen. Yeah.
Where would you suggest that we draw a straight line to a pre-assumed curved surface and then attempt to back up that claim with a mathematical formula for the bending of light that's based on that R value that you are not proving?
All right.
Answer that one.
Okay, well, you could do it over there. How about that?
So it's beautifully vague. Beautifully. So yeah, donkey dick tangents, that's what we call this. You know, bent line when they need a straight one. Their defence for not seeing the physical geometric sphere edge formerly claimed to block boats and buildings and called Earth curve in Earth curve calculators. We can't see that because, well, you wouldn't expect to see it. It's refracted. With R. Oh dear. And like Pickle Rick attempted yesterday, they need it to be an effect that's optical in a world of geometric maths that claims a globe. And it's not. It's 7/6r. So you're going to need R. They haven't got it anymore. It's been debunked by the Black Swan. So their game is over. It's been rumbled.
Hey, guys. Speaking of Pickle Rick.
Hello. Yes, go ahead, Tenth.
Speaking of Pickle Rick, Brian, you made a connection with Pythagoras with 8 inches per mile all the way to current day Pickle Rick. You want to go over that?
Sure thing, yeah. But there's a timeline, you see, that led us to yesterday and today. And that timeline starts with Pythagoras, as he created a mathematical reference model. It's him that gave us the 8 inches per mile squared. He gave us the original calculations for the globe. Now, his ideas were promoted by Aristarchus after him, and then Eratosthenes tested his pre-assumptions by pre-assuming, right, exactly what he said, and then getting the almost exact same calculation for a circumference. And then after that, Al-Biruni in the 11th century, what he did was calculate another pre-assumed radius value, okay? And then we end up yesterday and today with Pickle Rick, Choiki, and Ed Fries. That's what we get.
Oh my God.
From Pythagoras.
What a team. Is that the Three Stooges?
But no, it's just an accurate description from rhetoric to trench. That's all it is.
Sounds like a timeline for a movie.
It does.
From the producers of Die Hard. From rhetoric to trench. Coming soon.
Yeah.
That was good.
But yeah, it all starts with Pythagoras. If you want to get the whole 8 inches per mile square, that's based on a circumference of 24,900 plus miles. So it all started with him. He had a thing about spheres, the shape of a sphere, and he started. After him came Aristarchus, then Eratosthenes, then Alberuni, and now Joikey and whoever else.
Yeah, they all have a thing for balls.
Wow. I don't know, man. That sounds a little rough, like putting Chaiki in the same category with those people, you know. Like, even though they did fail, like, that's still kind of rough.
Well, how so?
Yeah, it's his own fault, really.
Have you actually heard Chaiki? Come on.
Yeah. You can't blame that on him.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what he meant by that.
Well, I think that the other people actually probably had kind of a respectable lives to some degree, and could
maybe they were Chaiki to their generation.
Well, you can go try to find historical evidence for that lineage if you want.
I'm not interested in proving your claim. How would you prove that they weren't Chaiki to their?
That was your claim.
You're the one who started it.
No, I wasn't.
I need a witness.
The only writings about Pythagoras that I know of from his time came from someone who grew up about a quarter of a mile away from him or something like that, close to him. And he called him a snake oil salesman, more or less, a chancer, and not to be trusted. You know, what's wrong here? We have a situation in the world where people are too lazy to think for themselves. So they allow someone else to think for them. And if that person happens to be a lawyer, like Pythagoras, you know, you end up with Choiki, Ed Freeze, and Pickle Rick. You know.
Okay.
Sounds so funny.
Okay. Well, that correlative setup is, yeah, that does make kind of sense. But if you're going to talk about a literal bloodline lineage, then comes a little bit more. You got to bring some real historical proof of that.
How we get into bloodlines? We're discussing ideas.
Well, you were.
Yeah, I don't know if Pythagoras existed. I know that there's mathematics and numerology based on him or from him or something, supposedly. I don't know if Aristarchus, Eratosthenes, Alberuni, I don't know if any of them existed. But the timeline is the timeline that we're given, let's just say. And if we go by that, that's basically what we end up with.
Well, right, yeah. Look, even some people out there way back in the past, if they were pursuing some kind of ideal and then would basically bend and twist and kind of manipulate and even lie to get their concepts forwarded, if that process is going to be continued and built upon, and that is happening, that has happened,
right,
we're discussing this, then indeed eventually the further it grows, the more diluted the people that basically swim in it and learn from that and think that that is all true, the more diluted they will become.
Yeah, but
the more delusion is built upon those original foundations.
But they're completely unaware of their own delusion in that description, whereas the ones that we encounter are the ones that take great offence to the reality sandwich we have on offer here, and the pointing out that their claim to be science, and they use that word, isn't science. They get very rebellious and angry because they recognise quickly that they'll lose all of the power that they've attained through their, what you're now calling, delusion, before we pointed it out to them, that is.
Right, the great delusion. I think it is the great delusion. And I think the globe, the one mentioned in the Bible, and I think the globe is kind of at the center of it, but it's not the only part of it.
I do think the globe is the biggest part of it. I think it's the biggest deception in mankind's history. This idea that we're travelling around a light in the sky we call the sun. And it's at the heart of the deception in terms of the ontological primitives. When you get down to the brass tacks of why I fought against this, I didn't want it to be they're hiding God. You're like, it's just Mark Sargent, it's just one of his clues, right? Well, no. The ontological primitives lead you to that question. Was it all created out of nothing, as asserted in the heliocentric model with the Big Bang? Or was it all created? Well, you can't have energy and anything coming out of nothing. It just does. It violates the first law of thermodynamics. So what you're left with is a creator. So you go, well, there's a lot of elaborate effort gone into convincing us of the other answer to the ontological primitive, and a whole backstory and back narrative that ties into us being on a sphere in a sky vacuum, having come out of nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, just like the Pythagoras mathematics story for the globe mathematics. If you look at Kepler was obsessed with the Copernican model, and Tycho Brahe was completely against it. And Kepler was an assistant of Tycho Brahe. When Tycho Brahe died, then Kepler took what Tycho Brahe, his writings and learnings, and Kepler then twisted the observations of what the sun does, throughout the year. Whether it does exactly that, but it seems from the ground here to be doing a certain pattern each year. He took that and he amalgamated it with his belief in the Copernican model, what he wanted there to be happening. So Kepler was an educated person of his time. He was noted. So then we have Kepler's analemma, which is putting us in the northern summer 4 million miles further away from the sun than in our winter time. This kind of crazy nonsense. So that came from Kepler's own belief and want of things again. So Pythagoras' nonsense that he wanted, his little fantasies, and then you have Kepler and his fantasies.
Hold on, let me correct you. Isn't it that it's the furthest away during the winter and the summer, but closer during spring and autumn?
No,
wasn't it?
No, we're closer during our winter. We're 4 million miles closer to the sun in that model during winter, and 4 million miles further away in the north in the summer.
So it's based on our axis.
Closest in January.
So we're 66 degrees. We're 60.
Yeah, but
Hold on one
north
sec. Just one sec.
equator,
Just one sec.
winter, south equator, summer. That
I'll just
happens
explain
simultaneously.
Oh God. Yeah, we're 66.6 degrees off horizontal in terms of the axis and its tilt. And that axial tilt in the summer would put us closer to the sun in terms of the amount of exposure that we get to the sun in that period, making it our summer according to the heliocentric model. But as Brian's pointing out, you've got Kepler putting the actual distance that we are from the sun further from the sun in summer and closer to the sun, although the tilt puts our exposure level much lower during the winter. So according to the heliocentric model, we're closer to the sun in winter as we traverse this light in the sky that's clearly going over us, and further away from the sun in summer. That's how ass about face it is. So, yeah, Brian's absolutely correct. I remember this being pointed out together with Brahe's objection to the colossal sizes that the lights in the sky would have to be when you assume a heliocentric model based on R and basically get the distances to the huge distances that they've now got. Well, that would put the lights in the sky being massive. And I just remember it back in 2014 or 15 when Jeranism covered this. And just being a bit aghast that an objection, somebody like Brahe going, it can't possibly be that way. The lights would have to be massive. And then you flash forward to us in our childhood, or my kids now, when they just stumble across it on whatever educational video they're watching. They'll have a description of the sun being this tiny dot, even though it's described in our model, the heliocentric model, the solar system model, as being massive by comparison to us. Well, that's tiny by comparison to Betelgeuse, which is vast. Well, that's a Tycho Brahe objection, believe it or not. And you hear this from as much as you can get close to primary source documentation, as old as you can get, several 100-year-old books that Jeranism was getting this information from, and it just leaves you shaking your head. And you hear it now time and time again about people who objected to certain aspects of this model, and then they got their names stuck on that particular aspect.
Yeah, just like Newton and his gravity.
Yeah, perfect example.
It's like Newton's gravity. Newton studied Kepler. And Newton's ideas were some of them were based on Kepler's analemma and all that. Because Kepler had to put the Earth further from the sun in the northern winter, the northern summer, and closer in the northern winter, because he had to make it look like what we see. So if his analema was different from what we see at any point in the year, then that would debunk his analema. So he had to make it. He had to do these crazy things, add these crazy aspects in, to make it fit with what we see in reality. You know, and the worst thing is that just like Georges the Maitre, that Jesuit priest who astronomer who was connected to Einstein and them, that QE has detailed.
Yeah, we've had him on screen.
Yeah, the father of the Big Bang.
Correct.
Yeah, just like him, Kepler, Galileo, and Tycho Brahe, and others, I'm sure, but those three, just for the moment, those three were astrologers. Now, all the Globers laugh at things like astrology and the Catholic Church and all the rest of it, but all their stuff comes from this. Pythagoras was a numerologist. You know what I mean? All their stuff comes from the stuff they laugh at. Now, I'm not trying to promote that stuff as they say they shouldn't laugh at it or they should or anything like that. I'm just saying the things they laugh at is where all their nonsense comes from.
But all astrology means is the logic of the stars, figuring out the patterns. That's all they've done, right? Now, these crazy assertions. I mean, when I say laughingly, you've fallen victim of reification of a philosophy. Well, that's what these philosophers are doing. They're taking their ideas to understand the movement of the stars better. They're figuring out the logic of the stars. Now, you're right, that's now poured scorn upon, and there's all sorts of other connotations in modern vernacular that come along with that word. And that's why it's laughed at, because of the current conception that word would conjure when you use it. But it doesn't take away from what you're saying. You're absolutely correct. All they've done is they've studied the logic of the stars. And then they've used philosophy to describe it to others. But then when you have the, fast forward a few hundred years, people actually thinking they stood on a sphere, I'm sure these people would be absolutely aghast.
Yeah, how many people? So many of them. I'm after stopping ballers in their tracks. I did it one time on Jose's. I was in there going back a couple of years ago now, I'd say. And I told them that fact, and they were like researching it. They couldn't believe it. The Kepler was an astrologer, and he was known for doing astrology. He used to actually do birth charts. I think in astrology, birth charts for people. He was known for it. He was very good at it. Wealthy people used to get him to do these kind of things. It was an expensive thing. And it's like they didn't like it at all.
But why wouldn't you like that? It's because of that those words have had a different magical implication imparted onto them in the current times. But what are they laughing at? Making charts? When you say it with astrology around it, you say, making charts. You picture Mystic Meg and star charts, right? Like as in the stars in the papers. That's what's conjured as an image. But what's he actually? He's charting stuff. What's to be laughed at when you describe what he's actually doing? Well, nothing is the answer. There's nothing to be laughed at.
Yeah, it's data basically, isn't it, on the cycles of what we see in the sky, more or less.
The logic of the stars. Yeah.
Funny how they'll laugh at that, and then turn around and tell us, "Oh, we could perform science by looking in the sky and charting stuff." They'll say that's science. But then when somebody's doing it with the label of astrology, that's fake. That's nonsense.
Yes, because
Hilarious.
they didn't call it science.
Then
time and location become independent variables, didn't you know?
Yeah, but these things are derived from those bodies, right? When you say time, when you say equator, when you say a lot of concepts that we hold near and dear, they're derived from those bodies, and the men who've studied the logic of those bodies and the terminology that the study implies is now ridiculed. Well, shouldn't that set off alarm bells? If you call yourself a truther, why would that be the case? You're getting your time, your concept from those things. So why would it be the case that you'd want to change and fiddle with things like the Gregorian calendar? Why would you want to fiddle with that stuff? Well, that should set off alarm bells. Especially as the derivatives have come from the people who studied astronomy. No, they didn't, my bad. They studied astrologic, not the naming of stuff. They just point a name, don't they? Astronamers? That's a black hole, that is. What are they doing? Well, they're pointing at something they've looked at in the stars and then giving it a name, as opposed to figuring out the logic of it.
I like that. Astronamers.
Yeah, star namers, basically. Star namers.
Just like Kepler and Pythagoras. Basically they were educated people, clever, smart people who put their own beliefs into things that became the globe model. In recent times we have Albert Einstein. Look at all the nonsense that he was willing to do. The mathematical equations that allowed pieces of metal to supposedly change in size. He was willing to use the Lynx contraction equation. I can't remember the name, but he has a couple of equations, and they were fundamental to his theory of general relativity. And they're just mathematics that say something can happen. Just because mathematics say, he mathematically said it can happen. There's no evidence of validation for these extraordinary feats of magic to happen. But he was willing to do that, and he was willing to come up with space-time and all this other nonsense. And now you have people like Dr. Becky, who say they're doing science sitting at an iMac with iTunes, looking at, and naming and fantasy. So it's just people's fantasies being called reality, going way back to Pythagoras.
Nathan, I have several books here. Long-Term Almanac, year 2000 to 2050 by Jeffrey Kolb. Starfinder book by David Birch. Astronomical Tables of the Sun, Moon, and Planets, Gene Meeus, M-E-E-U-S, and Heavenly Mathematics, The Forgotten Art of Spherical Trigonometry by Glenn Van Brumland. The reason I bought these books is because when I talked to people who ran schools for the use of a sextant in navigation, they told me that we know where the stars are going to be thousands of years in the past where they were, and we know where they're going to be anytime you want to point to the future. I said, well, that's interesting, because in your model, we're supposed to be spinning and have many movements. How is it possible that you know all this stuff, unless they run a circuit and repeat themselves on a monthly, yearly basis? Interesting, huh?
What was the reply? Did you actually pose that to them?
No, I asked him, I said, how do you know where the stars are going to be in the future? He says, that's easy. We know where they're going to be 100 years from now. And I said, well, how do you know that? He says, because we know where they were hundreds of years ago. That was his answer.
I see. And you're just highlighting now that in the heliocentric model we'd be in a very different place.
Right. It doesn't match the heliocentric model whatsoever.
So if it was 2 o'clock yesterday, I can guess it's going to be 2 o'clock again today. So pretty much what you're saying.
Well, they actually derive everything, all their predictions, from astrological charts, specifically calling it astrological because it is based on the logic of the star motions and the patterns. So that's what they really base their prediction capability on. And then they just spend all their time naming things and inventing phenomena and writing science fiction pieces about it.
They base it on the Saros cycle.
You guys want to have a bit of a gander at how they're blatantly putting this propaganda out to the kids?
Okay, I've got it on screen, the thing you just shared. The first one's got globes. Is that the first one you want me to present?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's up.
So yeah. A little backstory to this. These are screenshots from a school assignment that a friend of mine, her kids had to take in school. And she's got a daughter. Her daughter is extremely smart. And the I'll try to make it real quick. The backstory to this is that the daughter told the teacher when she got to this particular assignment that the Earth is not a globe, and you teachers have to stop telling the children lies. Because the kid, she read this, and her takeaway from it was, this is nonsense. And she told the teacher that. Now, the teacher, obviously they're doing school at home now because of all the COVID crap. But in a video conference, she told the teacher, this is nonsense. And she got upset and she refused to do this assignment. Now, it's not because this is a girl that doesn't want to do her work and stuff. She did all her other assignments. Everything was great. Her mom told me it wasn't until she got to this particular assignment that had to do with the globe that she got very upset. Now, her mom's not a flat earther at all. As a matter of fact, her mom doesn't like the topic. Doesn't even like when I talk to her about it. But somehow or another, her daughter has gotten the hint that somebody's lying about something. And she always tells me this girl's very inquisitive. But she's 8 going on 9. And she's extremely smart. So she picked out this assignment and went through it and basically threw it back at the teacher's face. That now, like, her mom's a little upset because now she's like in a bit of trouble and they got to have a video conference and all that. So kids are waking up, and I was extremely happy to hear just that the kid is thinking, right? Not so much that the kid just threw it back in the teacher's face like, oh, this is just nonsense, but the kid is thinking for herself. And I think that's freaking awesome. So to come down to the screenshots, these are screenshots. That's why it looks the way it does, because these are screenshots from a computer. And yeah, I mean, you could see it. They start with the reification right there. A globe is a model of the planet Earth. Because it is round like the Earth, a globe shows the correct shape of Earth's continents and bodies of water. A map can't do that. A map is flat. It distorts or changes the real shape of the continents and bodies of water on it. Now, with this slide, this is my favorite part. Don't believe it? Try this. Take an orange, carefully remove the peel. Once you've removed it, lay the peel on a flat surface and smooth it out. Now look at the orange it covered. See how the flat peel, which is like a map, is a different shape than the orange itself? Anybody notice anything funny about that? I still hear.
Well,
they're reversing it.
It's a very clever little magic trick. They're taking the possible dissonance that might be in the reader of the first statement and asking them to justify how a map would be distorting the terrain.
Exactly. They're literally reverse engineering it, basically, in the kids' heads. They take what is flat and they turn it into a ball. But what they're doing here is showing the kid, look, you take what's a ball and you turn it into something flat. It's outright ridiculous.
What's interesting is they highlight the word distorts in blue. So
right.
I reckon what that is that kids may not know what the word distorts actually means. And so then they teach them about the word distorts in the middle of it. So they get a clear understanding of what happens on a map, how it distorts, supposedly.
Yeah,
also,
to put it in their head
the question is,
you're not really looking at what it really looks like, right?
Well, look
it's distorted.
Also how confusing the question they actually ask is. So before I ask the question, because you haven't read it out yet, what's the picture on the right-hand side? What's that a picture of, Chocolate?
A globe.
Okay, so bearing in mind, I've just asked Chocolate what the picture in this image on the right-hand side is, and his answer's globe. Okay, the question they ask is, which is a flat picture? A map or a globe? Just out of interest, Chocolate, the globe that you said was a globe, is that flat?
It wouldn't be flat, no.
But it is flat, isn't it? On this picture right now, right here in front of me on a screen, it's flat, isn't it? So it's just a depiction of a globe, therefore flat.
Right.
Right, so, and a map is also flat. So in answer to this question, which is flat? Which is a flat picture? A map or a globe? Well, the answer in this instance would be both. There's a picture of a flat globe on the screen next to the question, and a map is obviously flat. So they're both flat. True in reality too, the globe that you think you're on as a philosophical way of understanding the star movement, that's also flat in reality.
Exactly.
So both.
A
Your
smart
globe's
kid might
flat.
actually say that. A smart kid might actually use that as an answer and say both.
And then you can't scroll like you could in the exams I used to take, where I could, with my pen, you can't do this on a computer screen, draw a little line to the picture of a globe and go, this is flat. Clearly.
Exactly.
Well, you got to look at the question itself. I clicked it away again. Like, which is a flat picture? Well, if that is the question, then yeah. If it's a depiction, it's very likely to be flat, unless you're presented with an actual 3D object. But that's not the question. It's about the picture. So yeah, the picture is flat.
So both is the answer.
Right.
But the question is malformed, which is
Exactly.
a singular flat picture. It's a malformed question.
Indeed. Exactly.
So to go to I don't know which order I sent the slides in. I just picked all three and sent them. So the one I want to kind of focus on is the one that says, "Can you see it?" with the picture of the lady.
Got it up.
Oh God.
Yeah, I got it up. I've read it already.
With the NASA lady.
Yeah, with
You know
the
it.
NASA lady, the complicated rock lady. Yeah. So at the top it says, "Can you see it?" Now, so to read it, it says, "Look out your window. What do you see? Is it flat or round? If you look out your window, you will see land for a distance that is flat. Maybe you might see a hill or a mountain. You could probably make your own map of what you see." This is my favorite part. "What you don't see is anything round like a globe." So how were globes invented? And it goes on to say, more than 2,000 years ago, the Greeks used observation skills and math to figure out the shape and size of our planet. They invented globes. But it took hundreds more years before most people believed that the Earth was round. Now, to go back to my friend's daughter real quick, she picked that out and literally told the teacher and told her mom. Greeks invented, she even said invented with the air quotes. She was smart enough to figure out, so they invented globes. They just came out with it.
Yeah.
Even though in the paragraph before it says, "What you will never see is anything round like a globe."
So, Chocolate, when I say this information is our own fault, credit to him, Tommy recognised this. Let's just go back to the original slide. The first sentence says, "A globe is a model." It's the first statement. So nobody's being deceived here. They've prefaced the entire statement about the model of Earth as a globe that's been invented. So while we might be like, wow, shock and horror, I knew this already. When you look into any of it from any aspect, which is all we do here, we're showing you fundies, the people who stand in opposition to us, how they haven't lied to you. You just misunderstood, ignorant globe-believing moron, and have reified this misunderstanding into a sphere beneath your feet in physicality. Well, no, they told you when you were a child. That's why they all come back with it. It's so well ingrained that I can make my point with this. They tell us about their model. Right, we don't live on a model. That's a reification fallacy. It's just a philosophy, a way of understanding something. And when they taught it you, they told you. There it is in black and white. They're still telling you today. It's just a model. Just a way of...
They deceptively told us, Nathan. They didn't tell us outright. It was a deception.
No, it says here, underlined by Chocolate, or maybe the person who did this, believed that the Earth was round. Now, round is very ambiguous. But they've also made it clear that they invented globes. And what we don't see is anything round like a globe.
By observation, no?
Chocolate.
It's hidden in plain sight. It's not a deception.
Neil, what they say.
I think it's the curriculum. Yeah, it's the curriculum, the teachers, because they're paid to have you come to that conclusion. And when you press them on it, they can't go outside of that because they might not get paid. So
To
it's not
mention
that
the
they're telling
teachers
you
very
for sure.
uninspiringly spew it just the same. They don't challenge the logic either. The teachers just administer the question.
And on the whole, I give them a pass. The only teachers I hold to much higher standards are the ones who come here and have recognised what we're saying right now. And even in their own rhetoric, the most important line here is, what you don't see is anything round like a globe. What, like Math Powerland's point? I wonder why he wasn't kicked off YouTube for saying it. They say it in the education material. What you don't see is anything round like a globe. No, you don't. And they also tell you won't see it from cruising altitude, even though mathematically you should. Why? Well, because it's just a model. So you wouldn't expect to see it. Right? Well, when they say no, but it is still a globe, that's on them. Because they weren't taught that.
Yeah, but here's the funny part, though, right? Because in the other slide, it says the Greeks used observation skills and math. So one slide says observation skill. Well, actually, it's the same slide. Wait, no, I'm sorry.
It was the last one.
No. It is the same slide. What you don't see is anything round like a globe. Next paragraph. The Greeks use observation, underlined by them, skills, and math to figure out the shape and size of our planet, and they invented globes. So they just double spoke, like
nah. They're not double speaking.
Especially for a young child.
No, they're hiding the weakest part. That's the black swan. The observations. Yeah. What are the observations that they derived are from? In the case of our argument, well, that's where their argument falls apart, because it only exists in the maths as a model, so you can't make observations of something that's only been in existence in a mathematical model. So they're underlining the observation and highlighting it blue with a link to what observation is, but they're not explicitly pointing out that we're here and now, pointing out that no. Regardless of what they say the Greeks claimed, we've got documented claims of observations from Al-Biruni to derive R. With his straight line, his tangent that they all say we haven't got, and his horizon that's physical and geometric, only existing in the maths. So no, they're not making observations. That click on here observation is the lie in this statement. No, they didn't make any observations. And if they did, they weren't making an observation of a mathematical reification. That's for damn sure. But they'll make it bold and take you to somewhere else to tell you what an observation is. But it's not in this text, is it? They're not explicitly saying here that that observation they made was of a mathematical reification. They'll just take you to a different site that details what an observation is.
What I said the other day to Chocolate about it was when I was younger, there wasn't any mention of flat. You were just taught globe, nothing else. There was no like, the Earth looks flat and blah, blah, blah. It was just, it's a globe, right? And everything is curvy. That's it. That's all I was taught when I was young. But now they're at a point where they have to tell the kids to not ever expect to see the curve, but it is a curve. Do you know what I mean?
See the geometric horizon.
Yeah, but hold on, they don't tell you straight out in class, though. They'll only tell that to the students that actually have the curiosity to ask.
Sorry, just 1 second. Just 1 second, Chocolate. Can you just repeat what you just said?
We don't see the geometric horizon. That's
now
what they're
click
saying.
here to learn what an observation is, what seeing something is. We don't see the geometric horizon, it only exists in the maths. That's what we're told on the trench level by globeheads who believe this shit, right? Meanwhile, the kids, who you don't see the geometric horizon, the Greeks used observations. Click here for what an observation is. For something that we do not see.
Exactly. Don't ever expect to see it, but it's there.
Yeah, we'll tell you what an observation is, though.
Brian,
even though you wouldn't expect to see it. Let's talk about what observations are, though. Because that'll confuse you. When we've just told you you can't see it and it only exists in the maths. Now let's learn what observing something actually means.
They mean the stars. They observe the stars.
Well, in the case of Al Bruni, he's observing...
Can I point something out? Because I think Nathan brought up a really good point, you know. Now that I'm looking through it, letting it kind of sink in, and then, realize how much detail is actually placed in this. This entire piece, everything about it is discouraging the reader to look into it further. It's just handing you some bite-sized data, and everything else on top of it is basically saying, like, yeah, you can't see it, it's no use, or it's been done, and it's kind of discouraging in nature. This does not want to make me like, oh yeah, I want to test this, I want to test that. No, there's nothing about that. Anybody else?
If I could, I see the point you're coming in with that. I want to take it back to Chocolate's growing up years and mine.
Chocolate, did you hear me? If you could just send that out through Discord.
Say again?
Service announcement.
I think he's asking you to share the information on Discord just so they can see it, because they can't see what I'm presenting to the audience.
Oh, you want me to post it? All right. Yeah, my bad. I should have done that prior. My bad.
Go ahead, 10th.
Yeah, on previous shows when we've discussed the same topic about how we grew up and went to school and what our teachers told us and what was our initial response to hearing this for the first time. Chocolate's and mine are very similar if you've been on the show any length of time. So I remember my teacher, because Brian had his teacher, Arwen had his teacher, and those experiences are true to them. But mine said all this stuff, and I kept raising my hand. And I said, well, how can that be? So I relate to this 8-year-old child. I was this 8-year-old child. I questioned everything. And when the teacher was exhausted by my questions, an 8-year-old, by the way, is exhausting this teacher at this point.
Okay, good to know. So you were always this annoying. Okay.
Give me a break. Go on, 10th man.
So what he said to me at the end was very simple. Look, I don't even believe it, but I have to teach it. Now, why would my teacher say that?
That sounds very similar to what I got. Well, it's in the textbook, and you need to know it for the test. That's pretty much it. Can't help you anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly what I got too.
Yeah,
well, you're weird, because I didn't get that at all.
Were you at a comprehensive school? Because if you're at a comprehensive school, the expectation is that you comprehend what they're telling you.
Well, I don't know what exactly type of school I got that, but I was very young. By the way, after that happened, I left that school because my parents took me out of it. Because I got really upset because the teacher was like brutally shaming me because they did actually confront me with a flat earth picture, sort of a floating disc type of thing, but with mountains. And I was so impressed by it. I was like literally enthusiastically jumping up like, oh, I want to know more about that. But oh, how dare you? You're stupid if you believe that. I was totally shocked. So I got a different type of treatment with the globe when I was a kid. They really did that.
Well, my experience, just because I mentioned it earlier, and because Tent mentioned it, was you sit down, shut up, and do what you're told. That was it. There was not, you weren't allowed to ask questions. It was like you sit down, you shut up, do what you're told.
And that leads to the student just giving up on it, just exactly like I did.
Yeah,
me
exactly.
Too. Well, I was totally depressed from being shamed just for being genuinely curious, which I was taught is a good skill. It's good to do that by my own parents. So
I was led to frustration.
Just need to sit down and comprehend what they're saying. And comprehension is demonstrated by you being able to parrot it back verbatim. And if you can do that, you'll do all right in a comprehensive school. Now, if you're questioning what you should be comprehending and repeating, then you're going to get in trouble. It's just that simple.
Well, maybe in this case, the word understanding would be more to point because of the judicial implications.
Yeah.
know?
You must stand under what they are telling you. That's correct, Darwin. You need to stand under it, not question it. Stand under it. Understand it. That's correct. Yeah. Now, I figured that out in school ages ago. I got kicked out of lots of schools. I went to a lot of different schools. I'm not going to go into why, but I went to lots of different schools. But I very quickly realised that they're only asking a very small thing of you. Understand what is in this information and just repeat it. If you can just parrot verbatim back what they've told you, you'll do well in school. So I wagged off the entire time, skived, did a lot of drugs, got very drunk, didn't spend a great deal of time in the classes, got a lot of detention that I didn't attend. And then when it came to the exams, all the teachers said, he's going to fail every one of them, is useless. It's like, well, you say that, but you gave me the information. And all I need to do is read it and repeat it to pass the exam. Well, that's really easy. I can parrot off this crap really easily. So I did, and I got a really good mark in all my exams. I wasn't even there, but all I needed to do was comprehend and repeat. So I did well. Not that I was ever there, but comprehension and repetition is all they're expecting of anybody who goes through that system. Simple.
I'm not sure you even need the comprehension part.
Comprehend how to repeat it.
Exactly.
Yeah, comprehension meaning that you've comprehended it enough to be able to parrot it back verbatim.
Right. And understand is more that you accept it to be true. That's understanding.
That doesn't matter if you're repeating it.
That doesn't
understand it.
No.
Under. So you support it. Yes, basically saying, yes, I support this.
Yes, exactly.
To give my teacher a little wiggle room here, he was also assistant wrestling coach, so he was going to see me in 7th period as well. So he probably figured, you know what, to get this guy off my back here in this class and 7th period, I better just say I don't believe it either.
Fair enough. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. If you're watching this show on Sunday, you could have watched it on Friday if you'd have become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, so smash the join button if you'd like to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!